Great, thank you, Jesse. All right, welcome everybody to the November 3rd town. See, welcome to the November 3rd town board meeting that will be comprised of the public hearings for the 2022 budget and then the November agenda meeting. And so I will be offering opportunity for privilege of the floor before the agenda meeting, if people wish to take advantage of that. So without further ado, I will open the public hearing on the 2022 Caroline Town General and Highway budgets. And let's see. Attempting to share my screen here. Here we go. Just one moment, I'm trying to get it to, it's not filling your screen, is it? Is it filling your screen? The budget presentation? Great.
Just a
Yes,
picture.
we
in
have,
front of the
yeah, we have
tower.
the
Okay.
first page, which is the photo, I think.
Okay, perfect. So I will walk you through my budget presentation. So the as I've described before, I did a comparative analysis of elected officials' salaries relative to population served, and made adjustments to 3 salary lines on that basis. That was the town clerk, the justices, and the councilpersons lines. And so I basically did a regression of salary versus population served, and then if the salary for the Caroline official fell significantly below that line, I adjusted it to the line. For the other 2 positions, mine and Bobby's highway superintendent line, I did a 4% cost of living adjustment based on a 2-year adjustment because we didn't make an adjustment last year. So that's where those fall out. You can see a 4% increase for supervisor and highway and superintendent, 9.5% for the town clerk, 8.5% for the justices. And that is on top of 2 years ago, we made a 19% adjustment. So we've made a significant adjustment to the justice salary over the last 2 years. And then councilpersons were far below the line. So that ended up being a 15.1% correction. So those are the public official salaries. This is my budget explanation slide that I'll just very quickly go over, which is how it's basically a summary of the spreadsheet we went through in creating the budget. So we go through and put in estimated expenditures and then estimated revenues. And the difference is made up by the tax levy, the amount of tax we charge to the residents. fund balance is our unrestricted, there are different kinds of fund balance, but the one that I've been referring to most frequently is the unassigned fund balance, which is just, it's just the reserve funds in the bank that haven't been assigned to any particular purpose. And so the OSC sort of recommends about, you know, they never say a number, but a balance of a fund balance of about 20% of budgeted expenditures to take care of unanticipated or anticipated needs of the town. So, and we're familiar with the tax cap. I calculate that every year from the OSC calculator, and it's either 2% or the rate of inflation, whichever is less. And then the Tompkins County Department of Assessment gives us the total assessed value of properties in the town for the different taxing districts. And so we divide the tax levy over the total assessed value to create the tax rate, which is the tax rate over 1,000 of assessed value. I think I have that wrong. Tax rate equals the levy divided by the total assessed value. So that's a summary of that. So this is a summary of appropriations for the general fund and highway fund and the combined amount. Last week, to get under the tax cap, we assigned $25,000 of fund balance to reduce the levy, and that got us under. And so the amount to be raised in 2022 is $1,784,855. In 2021, it was $1,733,092. So it's about a 3% change in the levy, increase in the levy. The bottom box just shows that this year total assessed value in the town went up by 1.57%. The tax rate per 1,000, 1.39%. And the current preliminary budget would increase the taxes on a $200,000 home by about $18 or 1.07%. The budget highlights for the general fund, if you're into budgets, these are highlights. And so just going down, I think you'll realize why a lot of these numbers are where they are. So town board increases 13%, and that's mostly because of the adjustment for the council person salary. The court actually goes down by 7.4%, even though they had a significant salary increase. They also reduced the equipment line number significantly. So that number actually goes down. Supervisor goes down by 13 point, the supervisor's lines go down by 13.7%. And that's mostly because of an adjustment to the average hours per week for Velvet, my assistant. And also the contractual line was reduced a little bit. The town clerk's lines went up by 2.7%, just a little bit. And you remember the salary for the clerk went up significantly, but contractual expenses were reduced a little bit. So it's came out at 2.7. The increase in town hall expenses is mostly because of the $10,000 we allocated for an electric mower and a place to store it. Safety inspection, 3.7%. Highway administration, 0.5%. So that those aren't noticeable or remarkable changes. So overall, about a 5% increase in the general budget. For highway, these are where the numbers came out. So road capital improvements up 21.7%, machinery down 8.4%. And I think that's mainly because of the drop from 180,000 to 165,000 for highway equipment. And you can see benefits is down a lot. I looked at that a lot for the health insurance, and I think I budgeted high last year is the reason for that. So, and I think it may have been because some 2019 payments rolled over into 2020, 2020 rolled over into 2021. So that's highway line. For insurance is a significant part of our budgeting. Health insurance amount, it dropped a little bit for the reason I just mentioned. But still, it's like a $250,000 for our health insurance coverage. Property insurance, 32,000. Workers' comp, 59,000. All right, the town reserve funds are summarized here. So the highway garage, we have 56,675 remaining this year, and I expect next week to send that to the reserve fund. In 2022, we budgeted an additional 65,000. So available for 2022 would be 444,000. The town hall reserve, same logic. None of that is spent this year. So the available funds for town hall repairs will be 109,000 next year. Highway equipment, as I explained last week, as of the end of September, there was a balance of 37,000, but that that amount and the 2021 contribution from the expenditure line were eaten up by the recent loader purchase. So 165,000 budgeted next year will go to that line. And this is this health insurance is this reserve fund that's been around for quite some time, and we haven't dispensed with it yet. But so we may want to do that, put that into the fund balance. But it is available for. I like having it around in case we need it for unanticipated health insurance increases. But okay, so fund balance. Velvet and I dug in on fund balance and looked at it at least 3 different ways. So this spreadsheet shows our bank balance as of the other day. So this is savings and checking. So the total cash on hand, 1.8 million. Within that amount are the amounts for our reserve funds and an encumbrance reserve. So with those amounts deducted, the subtotal is 1.337 million for fund balance. And then from the spreadsheet, from my ledger, the estimated expenses till the end of the year are shown for A fund and D fund here, and the estimated revenues shown for A fund and D fund here. And so making the adjustment for those expenditures and revenues brings the estimated unassigned funds to 1.193 million. And that's approximately estimated it at 58% A fund, 42% DA fund. So a significant amount of fund balance in each of those. So that was one approach. Then the other, and these approaches are not unrelated, of course, but I used different reports that I had available to look at it every which way. So this is using, this is from the trial balance reports and the A or DA 909 number on those reports, which is the unassigned fund balance. And so this shows the trend from 2014 through 2021. And so without worrying about the exact number, it comes out very close to the same total as on the previous spreadsheet. And then the third way that I looked at it is using the AUDs, the annual update documents that the bookkeeper files with the comptroller. And so you can see there's, the trend over time is the same, and where we're ending up is again very close to 1 million divided between A and DA. So so that's that. So with that is the conclusion of my budget presentation for the general and the highway fund. So with that, I will open it up for any questions or discussion on that. Did everybody follow my process there?
Art, could you please just go back a slide so we're not confused with the fire
Oh
district?
yeah, certainly. Yeah, I've drifted into another public hearing. Yep.
What about the fund balance that's about twice what's the recommended by the state controller? Are we gonna just, should we take a little more of that to offset, go for a 0% tax increase this year? That's a question, not a statement.
Yeah, so that is my recommendation, that we do that. And I guess, let's see, I will go ahead. I'm going to stop sharing that one. Now I'm back to the worksheet that we worked through a few times, and
It's probably become second nature to you now.
yeah, it's getting familiar, that's for sure. So this, let's see, go down here to the end where the final calculations are. Yeah. So this shows what we assigned last time. I think, yeah, my recommendation is that we apply fund balance to keep the tax levy flat, which is following what Dan Klein did and the
Yes.
county did, recommended and did. So that would be,
Or maybe we should be going through expenses first, just to, if there's any raised concerns there. I know I've got a little concern with highway that just what I see is the price of diesel fuel and oil and just those kind of everyday things. I think highway's gonna see, compared with this year, I think they're gonna see just quite a bit more expense in fuel and,
so Cal,
yeah,
so I certainly, I mean, we did discuss that before.
yeah,
I guess what I'm seeing from all of this is that we have a very healthy fund balance. And it can be used to cover unanticipated
Yeah.
increases like that.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, okay,
so-
I understand that. I think it's good if we can get a budget that's as accurate as, as reasonable, just to avoid those
Right.
transfers, just that way and then try to stick to it, but yeah, we've talked about it, and I guess it's just, for me, it's just an ongoing concern that,
But you feel like the numbers we have aren't responsible?
I don't feel that, but I think some of those sort of basic, they're a large unknown going forward for the next year.
Okay, so let me just
The
make
cost of
it,
heating the building and stuff like it. We don't have a ground source heat down there, and just, that Old Town Barn is a real energy hog.
so let me,
Yeah.
could I just finish this, this
Yeah, I'm
thought
sorry. I'm
before I
sorry.
get, so, no, that's okay. So if we assigned another 50,000 of fund balance to offset the levy, that would put us 3% below the tax cap, and it keeps the 2000.
The levy almost exactly the same.
It's almost exactly the same. I mean, we could make it exactly the same if we wanted to, but
No, but I really like the looks of that.
yeah. And so, yeah, that's what I would like to do, and it still leaves us with a very healthy fund balance for all of the things that we're thinking about, and for unanticipated increases that you're.
Yeah, I mean, it still leaves us with a fund balance of $1 million.
Right. So, so yeah, that's my recommendation. Yeah. So let's see. I'll go back to the.
So Mark, can I just ask a quick question so I can make sure that I've got it correct here
Sure.
for the minutes? So by applying, your first proposal was a $25,000 increase, or from the fund balance to offset. So now keeping it flat is how much of the fund balance is being used? 75,000?
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
That's correct.
Well, Mark, I have a question about the DA 234, which I believe that's the HRA account.
Oh, the reserve fund?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would it be best if we had, you mentioned maybe that going back to fund balance, but, or should we have a restricted account that just goes to in case of, I don't know, whatever. I just think maybe that should be kept in a, specific, just roll over into some sort of restricted account rather than go back to fund balance or something. I don't know, it's just a suggestion, not a suggestion, a question, if it should go to something like that.
I think we could, for instance, I have to look up the process, but I think maybe the process, if you assign from one reserve fund to another, I think it may be a simpler process than if you just
Okay,
return it to fund balance. So, I mean, we could allocate that to something like the highway garage fund.
okay,
We could put it there. We certainly have other reserve funds that that deserve funding. So
yeah,
Mark, I was just going to say that after this past week's incredible flooding, which really could have ended up being really, really bad for the town,
mhm,
I would feel very comfortable with a healthy fund balance that could be used in multiple ways if we needed it,
mhm.
And of course, if we didn't need it, we'd be able to shift it to other things. But I mean, I would welcome the flexibility that fund balance brings us, given the reality of global warming and what we've been facing recently, because we could have, we could lose a culvert or two just like that.
Mhm.
And then if we put all of the funds into restricted accounts, it would just handcuff us.
I think that's a good point. I think that is a good point. So I don't see a problem with letting it go to the unassigned fund balance. It's actually simpler, and you do have more flexibility going forward. And I will say, so whatever we do with this won't affect the budget as far as in my thinking. This is a kind of a separate issue. But if we do, it would, if we release that health insurance money, that account was created a while back in anticipation of sort of mass retirement of a highway cohort, the last of which just retired the other day, Jeff Johnson. And he was telling me they were all of the same age, went to school together and everything. So and so I think under Don's leadership, they established this in anticipation of
Okay.
upticks in insurance costs, because at the time the town covered insurance for retirees. So,
okay,
so that's just
okay,
by way of explanation. So the reason for
okay.
emptying it now is that we no longer have that.
That obligation. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, so I misunderstood what those funds were intended.
Yeah. So I will just say, addressing Tim's comment, that I think doing this flat levy still leaves us with it gives sort of relief to the taxpayers to a modest degree, but it still leaves us with very healthy level of fund balance. So I think.
Yeah, and if the state controller looks at you know, a fund balance of 50% of the annual budget, they're gonna kind of reprimand us for having, you know, it's not just a little over, it's almost twice what they recommend.
Yeah, I was gonna say in regard to that, though, I think, like I said, if you go to these trainings, it's like it's like squeezing water out of a rock. They will not say a number.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
so, and what they will say though is they'll say like, it should be about 2 months of operating expenses. But the other thing they'll say is that for smaller towns, the proportion,
Yep.
smaller towns are more vulnerable, and you could
Yep.
have a higher percentage for smaller towns. So
Yep.
I actually think at 40%, I don't think they would really
no, I
raise
don't think so. I don't think so either.
Yeah.
But yeah, because, you know, $500,000 to put a big hole in that fast, and wouldn't that hard, we had a road washout, major
Yeah.
road washout or something.
And Mark, I mean, I'll just mention, especially for Catherine, who wasn't doing this last year, that last year we were almost in the opposite situation where we were worried, really quite worried that the fund balance was hovering, what was it, around 15, but well below 20. And I think that one of the things that this indicates is, I think, really prudent fiscal management by all of the town divisions over the past year, for which we should be incredibly thankful. And it eases our burden just across the board in so many ways. So I think as I understood it from last year, I think this puts us in a really healthy position. Am I getting that right, John?
John?
Sorry, I'm muted and I have two screens and I couldn't get my cursor over to where I needed it to unmute. Yes, that absolutely is how I recall it. And I echo, Tim, your comments to the different departments of really, really strong fiscal management in uncertain times. This looks really, really healthy and good. I agree, Mark. If we can really ease the burden for our residents this year, I think that's great. We know that there are some price pressures because of supply chain issues. So I think this is great.
Great. Super. Great. Thanks for your comments. So if there's nothing else, I'm going to close the public hearing on this part of the budget. So I will do that. And I'll now open the public hearing on the 2022 Caroline Fire Protection District budget. And so I realized today that this is a funny slide because I took a picture, because it's across the street, of the Slaterville Fire Hall, but the Caroline Fire Protection District is served by Speedsville and Brookendale. So I have to get some more pictures, but it's a local fire hall that does serve us.
Yep.
So here's the summary of changes from the 2021 to 22 budgets for each of the contracts with the different fire departments. So Speedsville, up $600, so 1.11%. Brookendale's budget is flat, so a 0% change. And we had that 2-year agreement for workers' comp insurance, so that the workers' comp number stays the same. So really, the Caroline Fire Protection District budget numbers are pretty much unchanged. They're pretty similar to what they were last year. If you look at the fund balance pattern, so the fund balance is decent for the Caroline Fire Protection District. So there's the history. So with that, I only have 2 slides for the Caroline Fire Protection District. So I'll open it up for any comments or questions or concerns.
Does anybody on the board know off the top of their head if we get a payment from Cornell for the land that they own within the town?
I don't know that we do. No, I've never heard of that.
I'll look into it a little bit. Just for the heck of, for next year.
I mean, I guess I should back off on that. I mean, they would pay, they would pay some kind of property taxes on that, wouldn't they?
I don't know.
No, they wouldn't.
No, I doubt it.
Yeah, okay,
I highly doubt it.
You
okay.
think they should, Tim?
No, it's educational land, but
It's a separate question.
that's a separate question. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
It is, yeah.
For the rest of the board's information, I looked into what New York State pays us on their state land within the town of Caroline. And we are paid $71,101 based on the assessed value of New York State's for land within the town of Caroline. The value of it is determined by the state. And then we get a check through the county for that in, the franchises and that, all that stuff that so it comes to us through the county. The New York State sends one big check to Tompkins County for all the county, and then it is partitioned out based on the taxable New York. Because if you look at a map, you will see that the state forest within the town, it lists it as taxable. And it amounts to $71,101. I'm not sure of the acreage, but anyway.
Anyway, that is different from the Caroline Fire Protection District, I'm guessing, but
Yep.
but I'm wondering if I suspect that is used to offset the county tax, like sales tax does. Is that right? Because we don't see any kind of a check that I notice about that.
I'll look into it some more then, because as I was explained by Jay Franklin, that, in the franchises and that there's a check that comes through from however the cash flow is.
Okay,
But that we get an amount for the New York State forests that are within the town.
great. All right, so jumping back to any other questions, I'm going to close the public hearing on the Fire Protection District unless there are any other comments.
Mark, can I just ask what the fund balance for the Fire Protection District could or would be used for? So in that case, let's just say that the fire district does see an astronomical rise in fuel prices. Is this the kind of thing that they could draw on, or how does this work?
It's a good question, Tim. I'm not actually sure. I think it is something they could draw on, just like with general and highway fund balance. So, yeah, it's a good question. I don't recall ever. Well, actually, yeah. So, yeah, I think if they had unanticipated needs, that's exactly what it would be used for. So, all right. So I will close the Fire Protection District budget and open the public hearing on the 2022 Caroline Lighting District budget. And I'm very hopeful that next year, when I do the budget presentation, this will be a photograph of an LED light. So
The new lights are really nice. I can't wait though that we can get some of the baffles and some of the controllers though, but they are really nice lights.
they are really nice lights, Cal. And I just noticed tonight driving up to the town hall, the one at the town hall parking lot's an LED. It has so much less glare
Yeah,
than the old sodium vapor lights.
Yeah.
So I think once
But-
they're all in, people are going to be really pleased with
yes.
them.
And if we can get those baffles on, because the light still does disperse out more, but I can see that with the baffles on.
I actually don't think it disperses out more. When you look, you can see the line where
Oh, for sure.
the beam goes down, and it's much more directed to the roadway
Yeah,
than it is for the sodium vapor.
yeah, and it's just a nicer color rendition.
Yeah.
Well, anyway,
So yeah, so here's the street light budget, and you can see, I mean, this was based on expenditures. I budgeted it down by half. So so this is a result of us owning the streetlight facilities now. And so so the tax rate for the streetlights district is going down. It's already small, but it's going down by half. And then this is the pattern of fund balance. And the reason this is so odd here with 0 now is because we're still, we haven't received payment for our streetlight purchase through NYSERDA because I'm still working with NYPA, the New York Power Authority, to work all that out. So, but that should rectify itself when we get that. So not hearing any questions, I'm going to close the public hearing for the Caroline Lighting District and then conclude with 2 final summary slides. So based on the previous $25,000 offset for the tax levy, the 2020 levy is 48,000 greater than the 2021 and 6,453 below the 2022 tax cap. And so that's just showing what our spreadsheet showed. And then based on that budget, as I showed you this earlier in the presentation, the total tax for a Caroline resident for the town and fire and street lights would be about $18 increase. So if we follow through with keeping the levy flat, that'll decrease a bit. Let's see, share. Yeah, so here's the spreadsheet result using $75,000 to offset the levy. And yeah, so then the taxes for a $200,000 home would decrease by, looks like about $19, minus 1.21%. So.
well, it's been a good night. We saved the average homeowner $37.
Right. All right. So I guess that concludes. I've already closed down the public hearings, and so with that, that concludes the budget public hearings part of tonight's agenda. And so I will open the agenda meeting and offer, if anybody wishes to speak to the board, the privilege of the floor. Welcome to do so now. Okay, I'm not getting a lot of hands there, so I'll move on to the I guess first I'll just open the discussion, or I guess I'll offer a resolution to adopt the 2022 Caroline Town budget with and so do I have a second on that? Is that a
You
second?
do. Yep.
John seconded. So then I'll open it for discussion and just make the recommendation that I am recommending the additional $50,000 levy offset for this budget. And then I also I want to acknowledge your thoughts earlier, Cal, about making sure we have enough for unanticipated increases due to whatever supply side shortages or fuel increases. But I think given our fund balance situation, I really think we're in good shape.
I agree.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So with that, I'm comfortable voting now and adopting this budget. If people feel a need to wait until the business meeting, I am amenable to that. But I feel good about this.
I'm comfortable voting now if others are.
I am. We've had the public hearing and it didn't result in any significant suggestions for alterations. And I think we've spent a lot of time on this budget. It's been really carefully poured over and we made a lot of adjustments in the meantime. So I'd be ready to vote for it now.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. So without further ado, I will, unless there are any other comments, I'll call for a vote. Are people ready to vote?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Thank you. So all in favor of adoption of the 2022 preliminary budget as the adopted budget for the town of Caroline, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. Congratulations. Thanks for your help with this. I think we made some significant headway this year.
Agree.
All right.
And I would just like to point out for the record that this will be John Frasia's last budget.
That's true. It is.
Too bad.
Last Town of Caroline budget.
That's true. That could be true.
Maybe it'll be New York State budget next.
Yeah.
Why would you wish that on me, Cal?
I wouldn't
Well,
wish it on you, but I think you'd be an asset.
Well, it is.
You're half right on that, Cal. Think about it.
Yep.
I think John's doing a play on words there. So, and I will point out that the budget sausage making process for the town is a public process. So John can participate in the future.
Well, you're right.
So yeah. So great. Okay. Thanks, everybody. That feels really good to have that under our belts. So let's see. Oh, I know why. I'm still sharing. That's why it's all weird. Okay, so Corey is going to join us at some point tonight, but I think I estimated a little later. I thought our budget work would go a little longer, so he'll be on in a little bit. So with that, I'll move on to committee reports. If anybody would like to offer their report.
I'll go. It's brief. So I have reached out to Jim Clark at LaBerge just to say, how we doing? And to ask if it would be possible perhaps to get a preliminary report for next week's board meeting. I have not heard back, so I'm going to nudge him, but I would really like to have that in our hands in advance of the December meeting so that we can ask questions, have him at the meeting, and then with the intent of hopefully in the December meeting, feeling like we're in a place to finalize this stage of things and wrap at least that part up before I step off. So
Great.
look
John-
for a possible thing at
Okay.
some point between now and then.
But even if we
Hopefully
didn't
early.
get it by next week, then you might get it, the week after, and you could share it with us.
Absolutely.
Deck for-
Yeah, absolutely. Part of my hope is, though, to be able to have Jim at our meeting, because undoubtedly there'll be questions, and I'd really like folks to be able to ask them and weigh in and let Jim have that feedback to frame whatever the final version of it is.
Mhm,
So
that'd be great. And he can
stay
Zoom.
tuned. Right, exactly.
Great. Were you able to provide him the feedback from our meeting whenever last month?
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you. Any other thoughts or questions for John? Great, thanks, John. Yeah. Anything else?
Zoning Commission.
Sure.
So the zoning commission is meeting, had to change the meeting dates a little bit because of our change of meeting and election day. So their next meeting is next Tuesday, the 9th at 7:15. The meeting after that, they jumped ahead because of Thanksgiving, so that will be Tuesday, November 16th. And their intention, which I think will be announced imminently, is to have a presentation
broke up,
from the planner about zoning and, pardon me, did I break up?
I missed
break up?
all of that. Yeah,
Spectrum. But so the zoning commission is going to meet on the 9th and the 16th at 7:15. They will be announcing a public presentation by our planner about zoning in general and what the zoning commission has been doing specifically on Thursday night, the 2nd. Sorry, I don't have the time, but I assume it will be at 7 o'clock. And that is going to be by Zoom. So it'll be presentation based. On Sunday, the 5th, the time has yet to be completely fixed. They're going to do the same presentation live. So the planner is coming to town to do the same presentation live in the Brooktondale Fire Hall. And after that presentation, then I think their plan, which isn't totally concretized, but I think it's fairly clear they're going to do it, is to have 3 or 4 stations spaced out safely across the fire hall with different maps that they're working on so that the public can see the maps. They're not at the stage of recommending anything, so anything that they show is simply going to be preliminary. I mean, I think they've made some progress, but they're looking forward to receiving some public response. As part of that, I believe they're going to be distributing some kinds of information boxes around the town. When they're going to do that hasn't been specifically determined. I suspect it's going to be before the hearing. I personally recommend that they do it after the hearing so the public has something to provide information and dialogue with. Then I think that their process, then that there's likely then to be sometime within the next couple of months, some kind of public presentation, which would probably be more exactly where they're at for final feedback. Then they'll have a public hearing before they turn their recommendations over to the board. I'm very much hoping they turn their recommendations over to the board by April at the latest, so that we then have adequate time to do our process of reviewing it, having our own public hearings, having the opportunity to alter it if we need to, if we want to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if they keep on track, I think we'll be okay. My aim is to get all of this settled by the end of the moratorium, so we don't have to extend the moratorium again. So I hope that's helpful. It's just a kind of a sketch of where things are going, but the zoning commission, frankly, just so everyone understands, in the past 2 to 3 meetings, they've been spending more time on planning and discussing and analyzing and projecting the public presentations than they have been on working on zoning. So they're really super committed to this. And I think it'll work out really well. I'm hoping we can just also just keep moving forward with the details that they have to deal with, so we can get through it in time. Is that helpful?
Yes, thanks, Tim. Questions or comments for Tim or for feedback through Tim to the zoning commission?
I'm just wondering if they want or would be helped in any way by help with the public pieces of it. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'd recommend that you talk to Jean. I think that she's planning on trying to bring in some maybe graduate students from Cornell Planning to assist with the public meeting, the in-person public meeting. You know, one of the realities that we're going to have to deal with is that the public meeting has to meet the same criteria, the same COVID criteria as any public meetings in the town. So my understanding is that's going to mean everybody's going to have to present a vaccination card and be masked. That's going to result in some discomfort. I mean, it's just obvious that it will. So we'll have to figure out, I think that'll be a town board responsibility to figure out how to, one, mediate that process. I know that Jean also in that regard is planning on going to the fire hall to see what their body limits are and dividing those in half for safety. So they're just going to be those kinds of issues that we're going to have to deal with. Who would have thought last summer that we'd still be dealing with this? You know, we would have thought we could have had just a massive public meeting, but it's just the way that but they're so sensitive to this that I'm sure that they'll, if it becomes a problem, they're going to try to keep figuring out how to rectify it.
yeah, it just seems like a lot. I mean, I'd love any advance note, as much advance notice as possible with everything, so that
Oh, don't worry,
board can
they're sending
review
it.
all the messaging, and then, I mean,
Well,
I'm
I
offering
don't think-
myself to help with
yeah,
anything that
I don't think, Catherine, that the board will be asked to review the messaging. I mean, I think that that's the zoning commission's responsibility, but they'll certainly inform us and everybody well in advance of these meetings. I mean, I'm assuming the announcements will go out after next Tuesday's meeting.
Right. I guess what I'm hearing you say is that the board is going to be somehow responsible for the COVID messaging. Did I hear you
Oh,
correctly?
I would say the COVID management is what I was thinking, but we'll have to, but that is true. So I think next week we should talk about what that means. You're right.
Yeah. So I would, I mean, the buck is going to stop with us for all of that. So I feel strongly that we should
And-
talk about that.
And unfortunately, I'm going to be out of town on that Sunday, it looks like, because I'm the chair of the State Humanities Council, and that's the only weekend of the year of our massive board meeting, so I just have to go. But that'll be okay.
I wonder if we could do some kind of pre-registration that would, so they wouldn't have to mess with that. They'd be already approved for attendance, and then
Idea.
it's smoother.
That's possible.
So-
Let's
I mean, I think we should be brainstorming all,
Yeah.
just, really thinking about all of this, even if that means that there should be a separate special meeting, separate from a board meeting. I would be happy to spend some time on that, but I think this is really important.
A big deal.
Well, yeah, and I think that, they're gonna be, I mean, they're really pouring over all the details of everything about the meeting. I think that the only thing that we're really gonna have to worry about is the door. So I mean, I would anticipate we can deal with that next week in a half an hour discussion or so. And in the meantime, trade emails about it. And if we think that maybe some kind of advanced registration might ease the burden, we could also even through email talk about how to do that. So I think it's a great idea.
Good, yeah.
And I'll be in touch with Jean, Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts for Tim or the zoning commission? I think that's good. I think it's really good.
And I think that their idea of these public boxes also, which I know that there'll be one in Speedsville, they'll be able, they're going to try to put them in public places. One of the intents of that is to provide overflow for communication that people can't come to the public hearings or are unable to come into the public hearings. So they're trying to cover those bases the best they can.
Mhm.
And I think that they're going to send out a townwide mailing about all of this. Is that your understanding, Mark?
I think they were thinking of a postcard. Is that right?
Postcard or a letter or something. And
Yeah.
they're working on that now.
But yeah, for December 2, the time is short already.
Yes, it is.
So yeah.
I think maybe I'll tell Jean that they've just got to get it out this week if they can. They should be able to do a postcard just announcing the dates without going into.
Yeah, and I think they do have time for that.
And they should do some signs also, and there's no reason they can't get the signs up this week. Or at the very beginning of next week.
Yeah. Good, yeah. So yeah, if they need assistance at the town hall here, Tim, you should, let us know, and I can have Velvet help with that. So
Sure. Much appreciated.
yeah. Good, very good. Anything else? Any other reports?
For the Community Service Award, I said I'd promised for next week's business meeting, but I'm going to have to postpone that until December. I've asked Jesse to help me find the initial resolution that established the Community Service Award, and just to make sure we're abiding by its original directive. And Jesse helped with getting out a list of all the past recipients. We've got a few gaps that I'm going to try to get filled in, and Mike Moran is helping me with that too. So I found some articles by Pat Brill that were published in the Ithaca Journal. I'm still working on that.
Yeah,
But we've got to, there's 7 years that we're missing who received the award since the first year was 1996.
are you pretty sure that awards were given each of those years, or do you know?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Okay,
It just, it's possible that we've got a blank because no award was made those years. So, but we're going to just try and search it out a little more.
super.
So, that's it for community service. I'd like to ask about and maybe Bob knows, or about the Dallas Mica bench. If we're gonna, are we getting that in this fall? So
I didn't, is it not in yet?
I don't know, I don't know, I was by there a while ago, didn't see it, but I just, how things are going for that.
It's been delivered. It was delivered like a month ago to the highway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have, it's all put together. And I'm working with Sean, trying to make some arrangements to get a concrete pad done.
Okay, great.
Cool, great.
Mark, do you have, this might be part of it on another update, but do you have an update on the trail meetings?
I don't really, yeah, I don't really have anything. I might have something by next week. I'll see if I can pull something together. We're still, we're still working with NICEAG to get feedback from their.
Current status that NICEAG has not gotten back to, or what's?
Yeah, that's true. And so the last discussion was that to just have the town of Ithaca attorney engage with their attorneys to work out the questions that she had about liability issues and stuff, and so so Bill Goodman at the town of Ithaca was going to pursue that, and so yeah, but yeah, it's a one of the things that's going on is the NICEAG rep for Caroline. Bob Pass was the previous guy, and some of you may have met him, and so he was engaged. So that he's moved. I think he's in a different division or something, but a different person is filling his role here.
Gotcha.
So part of the process is getting up to speed with him and filling him in on the situation and all. So.
Okay. So it's not that any other town is in a different spot than we are. Just all 5 towns are on hold.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. But yeah, we're still meeting every 2 weeks and getting updates. It's just slow. So.
Mark, on another matter, which I meant to bring up with my reports regarding the court, and just going back to the meeting and communication that we've had with them regarding the key policy. Are there any updates on that? We had asked them to give us, a copy of the keys.
Right.
With
Right.
the policy for safety and.
Right. So that we haven't gotten that. So but I guess I think the next step, I think I can request it again, and I'm planning to just schedule a key change, because we need to do a key change anyway to rekey the doors and just resolve this issue. So that's my plan.
It's been over a month, so I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah.
And I'm concerned about it because of the issues that we had with blown breakers and the fire department not being able to inspect the court area.
Yeah.
And reasons for us to have an access key for the rare moments when it's necessary. That blown breaker, when that happened, if the history room had been operating, that could have been a real serious situation for somebody.
Yeah, it's totally, it's something, yeah, I agree, we need to get in place. And yeah, I'd like to, so I did send a message that was very clear that we need a clear plan to to secure whatever records they have, or resolve those records in the small conference room that we still cannot use. So that's one thing I'd like to also get some traction on. And
And in the meeting that we had at the end of September, Mr. Shapiro from the courts said that he was going to send us a summary of the meeting. Did we ever receive that from him?
no,
You sent him a summary of the meeting. Did you ever receive a response from him to that?
no.
Can I also point out that we haven't received a summary of the meeting, those of us who were not at the meeting?
Did you not receive that?
I don't know. Did I not send that to you?
I thought you did, but maybe you should send it again.
Yeah.
I thought you did.
Well, if I didn't, I will definitely, I will send that to you.
Sorry, that would have been a real oversight.
It would have been, so.
I could be wrong, Cal, I don't know, did you get anything?
You know, I think I did not send that to you guys. I think I sent it to the, I sent it to the attendees at the meeting we had with the court, with Mr. Shapiro. I copied Tim as the liaison, and I copied Guy, so.
Yeah,
But
please.
I will definitely share that with you.
Thanks. And maybe in the future, can we just put forth a policy that meetings are recorded as was? And just
Well,
not have it be a,
That was an issue.
yeah, I mean, like, we should.
Our
just-
attorney, Catherine, recommended that we not record the meeting
Yeah.
because it was a crossover between personnel and negotiation. And his recommendation is that he wouldn't recommend doing that, both because he didn't think it was applicable, but also had a concern that it would just throw over the apple cart completely when we were trying to accomplish something.
So I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that I actually did send you, maybe not the letter, but I did send you a summary that also described exactly what Tim is saying. So,
You know, I remember the discussion in terms of process that, you know, Cal and I and John, I think we all were engaging about that prior to the meeting. But I guess,
so we,
Yeah,
I mean, just to rehearse so we all remember what happened. I had proposed a similar meeting to the judges in May, you know, because this had been lingering for so long. They refused the meeting and said that they wanted to make a presentation to the entire board. But at the same time, they didn't want to have a meeting with the entire board with the attorneys. I mean, it was very confusing. So we did do the 2 times we had them make their presentations to the board, whatever those were. And after that, we were then be able to get later in the summer only this meeting with the attorneys, which was incredibly helpful in terms of moving forward. Because one, we clarified with the court attorney that it isn't illegal for us to have a key. It's just they need to secure their records if someone else was in the room. We clarified with their attorney present that we have a right to have access to our meeting room and that we need to resolve that storage issue. We covered numerous things like that apparently weren't possible to do in public, not from any attempt of our own. So we did make progress, and we also covered some personal issues. I mean, I'll just tell you that I was asked to apologize on behalf of a former board member for what was understood to be some kind of misstatement. I mean, that's how the meeting began, actually. So we got through with that kind of muddy stuff.
so Catherine, I guess can I just interject, Tim? I mean, we did directly ask Guy about this when we, and he just said he did not think it was appropriate and recommended against it. So we followed his advice.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally fine, but I guess like obviously anyone can, it's an oversight that it could happen to any of us, but I think if we're not going to be recording, then making sure that we've talked about it.
Well, like I said, I did send a summary email now that I'm thinking about it, and I can send you this letter as well. So I'd be happy to.
I could be totally mistaken. I apologize if that's the case.
All right. Are we good with that, or Cal?
I hope so. No, I wanted to move on. Do we, as a board, need to talk about this dispensary for marijuana thing that there was an article in the Ithaca Voice about that, opting, leaving it as legal or opting out of its, or is it just, I don't know.
So I did bring
I
this
know a
up.
couple of us got cornered by some residents about it, so
Yeah.
I think we should at least bring it up in public.
Didn't we decide on this last year?
I think it was earlier this year.
Or that's what I meant,
Yeah.
where we decided we wouldn't opt out.
Okay.
Do you remember that, Cal?
I'm
Maybe,
being reminded.
No, but Cal, that could have been at that one meeting when you weren't there because of your eyes. That well could have, you might not have been there.
Yeah, okay, well. So it's been discussed and gone over. And we decided to,
We did discuss it. I didn't like, present information about it. I could next week. Someone did ask me about it. And so I could give a brief presentation on it from the Association of Towns or whatever. And, then, but I know we did have a board.
I do remember our discussing it.
yeah, okay,
And I remember now, Cal, that you were there because you were the first person to enthusiastically say we should not opt out.
okay.
I took your lead.
If we learn nothing else from prohibition, it's, well, anyway, good.
Yeah. So. Any other thoughts or questions about these issues or anything else? So I guess I would suggest, shall I move on on the agenda? People good with that?
That'd be great.
Okay, good. Thank you. So I'll call for approval of the minutes of October 13th and October 19th.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Cal, and that second endorsed by John. And any comments on the minutes or feedback for Jesse?
Great job.
Once again,
Yeah. All right. Those minutes are hereby approved. Thank you, Jesse. Very nice. So the next thing would be agenda items for next week. So would you like just a summary of the opt-out thing with the marijuana dispensary law? Take 10 minutes to do that, so people are familiar with that.
5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay.
Just in case there's been any changes or reconsiderations.
Amongst ourselves, you mean?
No, we're just, you know, I don't know, never hurts to take a second look.
Okay. I will be offering a resolution encouraging now Governor Hochul to sign legislation that's on her desk to establish a New York State Rural Ambulance Task Force. It's Senate Bill S3503C. So it's already been passed by the Assembly and the Senate and is awaiting signature. It's specifically designed to assess ambulance and emergency service needs in rural parts of the state, not downstate. So it's very relevant to what we've been struggling with for quite some time.
Great.
So that, and actually for tonight, I would like to offer a resolution off the cuff. This is a standing thing. So I realized it's the intermunicipal shared services agreement with Tompkins County. And those are typically they're 5-year agreements. So we got that in early October and they wanted it by the end of the month. So I guess in a little bit of a disjointed manner, I'd like to offer a resolution to authorize me to sign that shared service agreement with the county for the next 5 years.
I'll second that.
Second by Cal. And any further discussion or questions about that?
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, so I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Great, thank you.
When did you have Corey lined up to sign in?
I had asked him, I had suggested by 8:30, so he might be here within 5 minutes or so, I suppose, so.
Hey, Catherine, I just checked the email and just for your information, Mark did send a summary of that meeting on September 30th. So if you look back to September 30th, you can find that email.
Yes, I have that. I was actually just crafting a comment regarding that. I think I'm just spoiled from Jesse's minutes, but I think we have maybe a difference of understanding of what like a summary could and should look like for those of us who aren't at a meeting. That's my, so I have it and I totally appreciate it, but just it's not the same, right, as like minutes really. We don't have to discuss it now, but that's my
Okay,
comment. And then, you know, in that summary email, there was a comment about the summary that was expected from Mr. Shapiro, which I also understand you haven't received, so we haven't received, but I think, you know, we're on broadly the same page, but I think if we aren't going to record, then are we allowed to have like a minute take or like actual taking of minutes, which is different? No.
I think that's the same thing. I think that would be objected to as well.
Interesting. Okay.
I think it's considered a
And that
confidential
recommend,
session.
Okay. Well, right. Then I guess then it's a matter of who.
I mean, it's like executive session of the board. It would be comparable to that. Or to
But only with certain
or
members
un-
of the board.
or union negotiations, for example.
Right. Okay. So then it's just a matter of only certain people are involved, and there's just a matter of expectation of how much information.
Yeah.
Like it's fine with me if I'm not expected to know what went on in that meeting. I would say I feel comfortable. I do not know what went on in that meeting. I have some, you know, I have a summary, but that's also I just want to make sure that I understand what I am like responsible for. And if I'm being told that I am responsible to understand content of that meeting to move forward in my job as a board member, I will say with all due respect, I don't feel as if I have enough information to really know what went on in that meeting. If it's a matter of like, here's a brief summary of something that happened, you don't really have to worry about it. You're not like responsible for a comprehensive understanding of the content, then I feel totally fine with that. But I just want to make sure that I'm like fulfilling my obligations appropriately. as a board member. I mean, that's all I'm asking.
Okay, great. I think I also, for next week, will try to dust off the contracts for the fire departments and put those forward again. So just a procedural thing, so.
Are we waiting for the code officer, Mark? Is that-
Yeah, I guess I was gonna wait a few more minutes. I know he does have connectivity issues at home, so.
Is there something else we can do in the meantime?
Uh, Well, I sort of have reached the end of the agenda and thought of it,
And you think we're going to complain about that?
yeah.
Somebody talk about streetlights. Come on.
Hey, I'll talk about streetlights.
Good.
Mark, maybe you could give us a little update on the resolution of the light bulb distribution project. Because weren't you tying up some loose ends on that with Emily?
Yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, absolutely. It's all done. And Emily has been very busy lately with personal relocation issues and political activity and you know, so, but the bulb distribution is done. And so really, she and I are working up the final report to NYSERDA, which would be her final milestone payment. And really all I need from that is like the total number of bulbs distributed. We know they were all 60 watt equivalent LEDs. And then she's has surveyed residents to estimate, you know, how many people changed out a 60 watt incandescent bulb, and how many people instead changed out a 60 watt equivalent CFL bulb. And that's also that NYSERDA can estimate what the energy impact of the bulb distribution was. The remaining bulbs that we got, so there we had ordered 10,000 bulbs. So there's probably like 2,500 that haven't been distributed. And so those are going to be a few of those, and this is with the agreement of NYSERDA. A few of those are being transferred to Cooperative Extension and then a bunch of them are being distributed to Gay Nicholson at Sustainable Tompkins, who's going to use them for promoting her climate fund work and energy improvements for low-income people. So I think it's a good outcome for that. Yeah.
Some go to the food pantry, or isn't that appropriate?
Well, I don't know if it very well may be that, and I think she did. I think Emily already may have provided
Okay.
bulbs to the food pantry. Yeah. So I think we've gotten a really good destination for these to other agencies or nonprofits that actually promote energy conservation and home energy improvements. So I think that's exciting.
Anybody that comes in and gets a building permit could get a box of light bulbs. to put in their new home, if they're doing, I don't know.
Party favor.
Yeah,
I don't know how that would work though, because then,
I-
so
yeah, yeah,
what the math would be going from 0 to something. So it would be increasing energy use.
usage, yep, and they want to see energy savings, not,
They want to
So-
see energy going down. So I don't know if NYSERDA would bite on that. They might, because, you know, it's a new home anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm struggling a little bit administratively with the LED streetlight thing, because they gave us that proposal which had inked in numbers for the streetlight purchase and all that kind of stuff, had construction costs, but we've purchased our own streetlights. So I've told them, you know, that's not part of our thing. And so I'm working with them to revise that, or it's, you know, I will be honest, it's been a bit frustrating. So, but still don't have completion, you know, a date for the final build out. And so, you know, I have been bugging them about it, but it's a work in progress. So I think it might be good to move on with the meeting. And so I would like to offer a motion to enter executive session to discuss personnel issues.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Cal, and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Great. So we will now enter executive session at 8:35 PM.
Just one thing, Mark, was those 3 agenda items for next week's business meeting, is that all you had to add? The fire contracts, the resolution, and the opt-out marijuana law? Is that it for the business meeting next week?
Jesse, there may be a presentation with LaBerge, but I'm gonna have to get back with you on that.
Okay,
That's all I have at this point. I'll see if I can, you know, if I have any thoughts tomorrow, I'll add it in and let people know, but that's all I've got at this point.
all right.
Yep.
Just making sure. All right, thanks, good night.
No,
Thanks,
thanks.
good night.
And
Right.
vouchers for next week are
Cal and,
Catherine?
yep.
Okay, thank you.
And I will email you guys to let you know when they're here and all ready.
Jesse,
Good night.
night.
Night.